Hello everyone. Myself Dr. Veena, Associate Professor, Department of ISC, Danan Sagar Academy of Technology and Management, Bangalore. Welcome to the lecture video on Lab Program 7 of Object-Oriented Programming with Java. Subject code BCS306A for third semester under VTU 2022 scheme. So let us see what Lab Program 7 talks about. The problem statement of Lab Program 7 is develop a Java program to create an interface resizable with methods resize width and resize height that allows an object to be resized. Create a class rectangle that implements the resizable interface and implements the resize method. So the problem statement basically talks about is you have to create an object of a class rectangle, which will be created with some width and height as dimensions. And using the resize methods of an interface, which is it is from implemented from, should be able to resize the dimension of a rectangle with a new width and new height. So before we start writing a Java program, let us see what is an interface, in which of the situations we should go for interface, how to create an interface in Java, and then we will write a program in Java and execute it. So when we say interface, what exactly an interface is? Interface basically supports abstraction and also multiple inheritance. When I say abstraction, in the previous lab program also we talked about what is an abstract class, which basically hides the implementation. That is, the internal implementation is been hidden and only the functionality is known to the user. Same way, interface also supports abstraction to the fullest. When I say it is abstraction to the fullest, all the behavior of a particular interface methods, that behavior of a class is always hidden with the implementation. Only the functionality will be known. So interface will contain the methods which will support the abstraction, that is only the high level design where the internal implementation or definition will be hidden. And the classes which are inherited from interface can have their own description in the given classes. And we all know that Java doesn't support multiple inheritance. So what if I want to have some of the methods which are stored at the different classes? How do I do the multiple inheritance? So multiple inheritance in Java is supported using the concept of interface. So interface is basically an abstract type used to specify the behavior of a class, how the class behaves. So the specification of a behavior of a class is definitely can be given in an interface. That's why you can call it as interface is also an abstract type. Interface defines a contract that class must adhere to. It specifies a set of methods that any class implementing the interface must provide. So actual or the individual description of the behavior of a class will be given in the class only. But that should be declared in an interface, which says that interface contains these are what the high-level designs or high-level methods should be implemented, and that should be defined in the respective classes. Interface basically contains the methods. When I say methods, only the declaration of methods is allowed. You cannot have the body of a method. You cannot have the actual implementation of a method. That's why we also say that interface supports 100% abstraction. Interface contains basically method signatures, that is the name, return type, and parameters of methods, but doesn't contain the implementation of those methods. It only defines what methods should be present in any class that implements it. So it will have only the name of a method, declaration of a method, but the actual implementation of a method will be written in the class from which it is getting implemented with. Interface cannot contain concrete, that is with implementation methods. Only public access specifier can be used in an interface. You cannot use the private access specifier as well as the protected type of access specifier and interface. So whatever the methods or method signatures are you are giving here in the interface should be always of type public. You also say that interface cannot be instantiated. You cannot create an object of interface. Interface will act as only the high-level abstraction thing where all the methods can be declared, all the method signatures can be stored, and the implementation of those methods, you can put it in the respective classes. So just see one single example where I should go for the use of interface and how it works. So suppose I say, just take a scenario or some particular situation where I want to send some message. I want to send a message. So messages I want to send. So this is what a behavior. That means some operation to be happened on a message. Whenever I type a message in the text, that particular message should be sent to the respective user or respective person to whom you are trying to send the messages with. So you can say that the behavior is I want to send a message. How many ways I can send the message, or in how many apps I can send the messages to my friend. I can send a message via WhatsApp, I can send the message via text, or I can even send a message via email. So when I say, whenever I want to deal with this particular behavior, that is messages to be sent, that can be sent either through WhatsApp or through text or through email. So I can say that there is a behavior on WhatsApp to send a message, behavior of send, that is on the text message as well as with the email. But we say that there is a high level design where I have told that messages can be sent. So send is a behavior. So this send behavior in WhatsApp changes from text and it changes from email. So if I want to send the message via WhatsApp, the internal implementation is something different. If I want to send the message via text app, you say the send behavior is different, or the definition or implementation of send is different. And if I want to send a message via email, the implementation of a send is definitely different from other apps. So you can say that in WhatsApp as an app, you can send the message with some particular statements written. That means there is some own description of a send method in WhatsApp. You also have own description of a send method in text, and you have own description of send method in email. But all these send methods are nothing but the send behavior of messages. So here in this case, you can say that messages, whatever the send operation is there or send behavior is there, will not have the definition, will not have the implementation in messages. In fact, the implementation will be there in the send method of WhatsApp, text, and email. So this is how it talks about is high level design will tell that only what are the behavior it can follow, but what exactly behavior it will do, what exactly the definition or implementation it will follow, that will be decided in these of the own methods. So in this case, if this diagram, if you consider, you can say that messages is nothing but an interface, which says that there is an operation to be performed as send, but internal implementation is hidden in this case. But when we talk about the send method or send behavior in WhatsApp or in text or in email, that is nothing but the actual definition. So messages is an interface, whereas the WhatsApp, text, email are nothing but what? Classes. So you will always send a message either via WhatsApp or via text or via email, but you will not be sending the message via messages. But the method implementation, that is the actual internal implementation of this send, is there from messages. So you say that you cannot create an object of messages because messages is of which type? It's an interface type. But definitely you can create an object of WhatsApp, you can create an object of text, you can create an object of email. And in all these three objects, you can say that there is their own description or internal implementation of the send method of the respective class. So here you can say that WhatsApp, text, and email are classes, whereas messages is nothing but an interface. And when there is an inheritance from messages to these are the classes, you say that this is nothing but an inheritance where send method from interface must be overridden in the respective classes. Because interface contains only the declaration of a method, not the implementation, and actual implementation should be overridden in each of the classes. So one thing or one condition you must remember, whenever you create an interface, you just tell that what are the behavior it can follow. But what exactly the behavior, that will be defined only in the respective class. And how do you define the description? By method overriding. So you will just declare a method in the messages as or in an interface, and whenever that interface is getting inherited, you say the method overridden or method overriding should happen in the respective classes. So in this particular diagram, you can say that messages is acting as a superclass. In fact, it is an interface, whereas WhatsApp, text, and email are nothing but subclasses. So there is an inheritance from interface to classes. And as I have also listed as interface supports multiple inheritance, it provides multiple inheritance. So you can create n number of interfaces, and all those interfaces can be inherited in one single class using implements as the keyword. So this is how the interfaces and classes can be written or can be inherited, and how the methods can be overridden in the classes is being explained. So if you want to create an interface, how do you create an interface in Java? What is the syntax of interface? So you need to give the keyword as interface followed by interface name. And inside the body of this interface definition, you need to declare the methods. That means only the method signature will be there. And you can also have the variables which will also act as a constant value. Any variables which you define or which you declare within an interface will act as constant fields. Those values cannot be changed later in any of the subclasses as well. So this is about the syntax of interface. Now, when I say interface, we have understood, we have seen how to define an interface or how to create an interface using the syntax. Where are the situations where I can go for interface, and how the actual definition can be written in the subclasses whenever inheritance happens. So coming back to lab program 7, let us see what problem statement talks about is you have an interface called as resizable. So you have just drawn, or the entire problem statement, I am just making it as a visualization form which contains an interface that is resizable. And this resizable method, this resizable interface contains two methods, resize width and resize height. And this resize width and resize height will not have the implementation, will not have the definition, will not have the body of the method. Only we will be declaring which says that if any of the class that is being inherited from resizable, you can resize the width, you can resize the height based on the own description of the class. There is a class called as rectangle, which is implemented from resizable. As the problem statement says that you have to create a class called as or named as rectangle, which is implemented from resizable. So this diagram, you can say that resizable is an interface which contains two methods, resize width and resize height. And there is an inheritance from resizable to rectangle. But as resizable is an interface, you don't make use of the keyword that is extends. In fact, you make use of the keyword implements. And what rectangle can have? So now, as it is a subclass which is inherited or which is implemented from resizable, it is must that resize width and resize height should be overridden in rectangle. And other than these two methods, you can also have n number of additional methods, n number of instance variables or constructors in the given class. So suppose I say, we want to change the width of a rectangle. I want to change the height of the rectangle. So two instance variables will occur for each object of rectangle, that is width and height. Along with these two, you can say that you'll be able to override the methods resize width, resize height, and you can also have the additional methods what you want. So resizable is an interface. Rectangle is a class with the instance variables width and height, and as resizable is an interface, resize width and resize height will be overridden, we need to override resize width and resize height in rectangle class. So using this visualization of a given problem statement, we can definitely start writing the program now, because we know now how the interface can be created, how it can be inherited in a class. So I'll just write, the first step is you have to create an interface named resizable. So you have used the syntax interface followed by resizable. How many methods you have? You have two methods, resize width and resize height, which is a parameterized type of method in which resize width will read the width and resize height will read the height. And it is going to change the size or width and height of the respective object. So here you can say that as resizable is an interface, you can have only the declaration of these two methods. You cannot have the internal implementation. You cannot have the definition of the given method. So you have created resizable interface. The next step is you have to create a class which should be inherited. That means there should be an inheritance from this interface to the class. So how do you do that? Is you have to create a class, or you will create a class called as rectangle, which implements from resizable. So whenever you have a class and there is an inheritance, you make use of the keyword extends. But as resizable is not a class, it's an interface. So how do you inherit interface is using the keyword implements. So you have written class rectangle implements resizable. So what are the instance variables of a rectangle? I can say every rectangle object will have some width and height. So we have declared two instance variables for the rectangle class. When you create an object of rectangle, I want some default dimension to be set. That means some value for width and value of height to be given, for which the dimensions of a rectangle can be set. So we have created here one constructor, that to a parameterized constructor with the two parameters. First parameter will act as the width of rectangle and second parameter will act as height of the rectangle. So whatever the local parameters I am passing here, that is width and height, should be stored in the instance variable. So I'm just copying the parameter, that is width, into the instance variable, as name of the instance variable and name of the parameter are exactly same. How to resolve this namespace collision is using this as a keyword. The moment you write this dot width, it says that it is going to point, or it is going to deal with the instance variable. And what is the right hand side width is? That is the parameter what you have passed. Same way, height, that is the parameter, will be copied into instance variable using this as a keyword. So whenever the object is created using this constructor, the width and height of the given object of class will be set. Now, what is the next step is, here you can say on the left-hand side, resizable has two methods. Now, as it is implemented in the rectangle class, it is mandatory to define these two methods. That means it is mandatory to override these two methods in the class. So here we are trying to override one method. What do you mean by method overriding is the name of the method, signature of the method should be exactly same in the superclass and subclass. So here we have written public void resize integer width. So resize width, this is now the definition of a method. So I'm trying to give the description over here. So what is the meaning, or what is the internal implementation of resize width is whatever the width we are passing, that should become the width of the given particular object. Same way, you'll be overriding resize height. Pass some height to resize height, and that height will become the height of the object, that is rectangle object. And other than overriding these two methods, other than having the constructor, other than having instance variables of the class rectangle, we also need to display what are the current dimensions of the rectangle. So what we have done is we have created, or we have defined one method named display dimensions. And what display dimensions method will do is it will just print the dimensions of the rectangle. That means what is the width and what is the height of the given rectangle. So this is what a class rectangle talks about. So we have created one resizable interface. We have created one rectangle class which is implemented from resizable. Both the methods I have overridden in the given class. Other than these two methods which we have overridden in the resizable one, that is resize width and resize height, we have overridden. Method overriding is been done in class rectangle. And other than method overriding, we have also defined additional method to display the dimensions of a rectangle. So after this, to change the size of the to change the width of the rectangle, to change the height of the rectangle, you need to create an object of rectangle. So where will you create an object of rectangle is in the main method. So here we have created one class called as name, which contains the main method public static void main. Now here the object of rectangle can be created and you can call the methods which you have written there in the rectangle class. You can see here, one object has got created from the class rectangle and the name of object is R. And we have created this object using parameterized constructor. How many parameters we have passed? 2 parameters, 10 and 20. So what is 10? It's width. What is 20? It is height. So what are the dimensions of rectangle is 10 is the width and 20 is the height. So you can say here, before resize, the dimensions I want to print it. So I just given one statement, system.out.print before resize. And dimensions of the rectangle are being displayed in the method display dimensions. So we are simply calling display dimensions method via object or through object R. So dimensions will get displayed on the screen. After that, suppose I want to change the width. So I have to call resize width by passing some width. So what I have done is r.resize width 50. That means I am trying to resize the width of a rectangle object by 50. So before it was 10, now it should become 50. Same way, we can resize the height of a rectangle object by passing the parameter. So before it was 20, now the height of the rectangle becomes 100. And we want some message should come after that is after resize, what are the dimensions? So just display some message called as after resize and call display dimensions method via object R. So when you say you are trying to call this display dimensions method 2 times, the first time is before resize and the second time it is after resize. So this is how you should be able to write the program, that is lab program 7. So let us execute this program and see what will be the output of the given program. The same program we will execute in the ID. So here you can say we have created an interface with the name resizable, where you have declared only 2 methods, resize width and resize height. Then you have created a class rectangle, which is implemented from resizable with 2 instance variables, 1 parameterized constructor. Then you have done method overriding here for resize width and resize height. And one method you have defined display dimension, which is going to display the dimensions of the given rectangle. This is about a rectangle class. And main class, where you have a main method, you have created an object of rectangle. And then you have put a message like before resize, what are the dimensions? Then you have resized it. Then after resize, what are the dimensions? Let us execute this program and see what will be the output. So if you just go through the main method, you can say that the output should be something like this. It should display the message before resize. And after that, you are calling the method that is display dimension. That means it is going to print this particular statement. Rectangle dimensions are width and height. So what is the width and height is 10 and 20. So first time it should display before resize is 10, 20. And after that, you have changed the width, you have changed the height. And then again, you are displaying the dimensions of the rectangle. So it should be able to display 50 and 100. Let us see what will be the output of the given program. You can see here, the message has come before resize and rectangle dimensions are what? Width is 10, height is 20. And after resize, what are the dimensions? Width is 50 and height is 100. This is what we have passed the values. 10, 20 are the old dimensions, 50 and 100 are new dimensions. So this is how the lab program 7 can be demonstrated. Now, as I have given here the constant values, that is 10, 20, 50 and 100, you can always modify this program and make it generalized one. So instead of passing the constant values, you can read the width and height of a rectangle from the user from keyboard using a scanner object, and you can pass those parameters for dimensions. Same way, if you want to change the size or you want to change the width of the given rectangle, you can ask the value from the user and you can pass that parameter instead only the constant values, that is 50 and 100. You can make this program more generalized. Sometimes the user, we want to know the wish of the user, whether the user is really want to change the size or you really want to change the width of the rectangle or height of the rectangle. So you can always say that before resize, you can display the dimensions. And after that, you ask from the user, do you want to change the width or do you want to resize the width of a rectangle? If the user says yes, then only you ask what should be the new width. And based on that value given, you can resize it. Same way, you can also say that, do you want to change the height? If I say yes, then only you should be able to do that. That also I can do it. So let us try that. System.out.println, do you want to resize the width? I'm just asking the wish from the user, do you want to resize the width? And if the user says yes, then only the width of the given rectangle should be resized. So I can create object of scanner class, scanner, some object, new scanner, system.in. You have created an object of scanner class, which will allow you to read the contents or read the data from the user. How will you read it? Suppose I say, I want to store the answer into a string variable. I'll just say, suppose answer equal to what? sc.next. So I'm reading the string type of data from the user and that value will be stored in the variable answer. Now I will check whether the value entered by the user is yes or no. So we can always check if answer. Now answer is nothing but of type string. So how do you check the value of answer is equal to yes or not is we can make use of the method equals. We can make use of method equals. Do you have the message something like this? So if the answer contains yes, that means you want to change the width of the given rectangle. So what you will do then? Then you will be able to call the method called as width. And suppose I want to change the width of a rectangle by 50. And if the answer is not yes, then it will not call the resize width. That means the width will remain to the old width only, that is 10. And after that, it should be able to ask you, do you want to resize the height? So again, I will copy this statement. I will just I'll just paste it here. Do you want to resize the height? I'll just give a message. And after that, same variable, I can use it for the answer. I'll just say answer is equal to scanner object dot next. I will read the string value. And again, I will check if answer contains, that means if it has the value that is equals yes, then you should be able to call the method r.resize height. And what should be the height is suppose 100. Now these two methods, I need not call it explicitly. I'll just delete it and we will just display the dimensions after resize, something like this. Let us execute this program and check. So what is the flow of execution here will be, you have created an object of rectangle, then with some default width and height, that before resize message will come. And after that, the dimensions, whatever you have passed while constructing an object will be displayed on the screen. After that, it will ask you, do you want to resize the width? And if the user says yes, then only it will change the width. Then it will ask you, do you want to resize the height? If the answer is yes, then it will be able to change the height of the rectangle object by calling a method resize height. And once the resize width and resize height happens based on the answer given by the user, whether it is yes or no, it will display the dimensions, whether either the old values will be displayed or after resize, the values will get displayed. I'll just run this. You can see here. Before resize, the rectangle dimensions are width is 10, height is 20. It is asking you, do you want to resize the width? Yes, I am saying yes. That means I want to change the width. And if you say, if you want to change the width of the given object, rectangle object, it will call resize width. And what is the new width is 50. So that means what is the new dimension? Width should become 50. Again, it will ask you, do you want to resize the height? Suppose I say, no, I don't want to resize. So what is changed is only width is changed, not the height. So width from 10, it has changed to 50, but height will remain the same, that is 20. Let us see whether the same values gets displayed or not. You can see here, rectangle dimensions, width has been changed with 50, but height has remained the same, that is 20, because I said I don't want to change the height. Once again, I will run the program. I will say, do you want to resize the width? No, I don't want to resize. That means the width should remain 10. Do you want to change the height? I say yes. What is the new size? Is 100. So you can see here, after resize, the width has got changed, but the height has got changed, but the width has remained same. Once again, I run the program. I say no. Here also I say no. That means what are the dimensions of rectangle after resize is remains the same, that is 10 and 20. So this is how the program can be executed, and the program can be generalized also by reading the width and height from the user. Instead of passing the constant values, you can read the values through keyboard as well using the object of scanner class. So this is about lab program number 7 based on the concept of interfaces. I hope you all understood and learned lab program 7. Thank you all. In the next video, we will see lab program 8. Thank you.